The first case, 2019-12938, looks like September 2020. You and three co-defendants entered the cell of two victims and started fighting them. I believe one co-defendant used a sock with a heavy item inside. One co-defendant was holding a weapon and making stabbing motions, and the report said you appeared also to be holding a weapon and stabbing towards one of the victims. The assault continued initially until certain shows of force were made by the officers, at which point it stopped. Officers found those weapons in the toilet or in the plumbing system as well. One of the victims was transported to the hospital and had received over 20 stab wounds. Is that accurate as to what happened in the case?
Yes.
Would you like to provide any statement or comment about this case and what happened?
No.
Okay. And what led to you being involved in that assault?
I just got put in the wrong situation. Was housed at the wrong place, the wrong time.
In the second case, 2216-00245, July 2022 in Gunnison, officers were performing a cell search. I think you attempted to flush a homemade weapon. Officers saw you do that and then found the weapon in the trash can. Officers found a flat rock with markings. I think it's the report says scraping it against metal objects. Was this weapon yours at the time?
Yes.
And what led to you being in possession of this weapon?
What led?
Yeah, why did you have the weapon?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay. And would you like to provide any further comment or statement about that?
No.
Okay. Since arriving at the prison, I think you successfully completed MRT in December 22. That was what the board said it expected you to do at the SMART scheduling. What did you learn in that class, or what insight have you gained since you've been in prison with your treatment classes or anything else?
I just kind of got to think before I act. Just learned a bunch of different skills. Since I've been in prison, but it just sucks that I can't show people what I'm doing good because of the environment that I'm living by. It's just rough, so it's kind of hard for me to show people what I've learned so far.
Okay. Let's start there, because I think it's important to look. There are times since your last hearing, I think it was January 2020, you do have 11 incidents leading to disciplinaries. There are three incidents of weapon possession, 3 incidents involving assault, 3 involving alcohol possession, and various other rule violations as well. I note that the 2 most recent incidents, so in July 23 and February 2024, they've led to now pending cases. I think there's case 2419-14379, 2 counts of felony 1 aggravated assault by prisoner, and felony 2 items prohibited in a correctional or mental health facility, and then case 2419-11762, felony 2 aggravated assault by prisoner. Because of the criminal cases that are involved, I'm not going to be asking specifically about any of these incidents, but what do you think's led to you being involved in these disciplinaries and these things occurring? Obviously, as you've learned since these hearings, it really has prevented you from moving forward with your plans in life. What's led to that, and what needs to change so that you can avoid these things moving forward?
Just the environment I live by. It's just I gotta just change, get out of where I'm living at, and just change the people I'm hanging out with.
Okay. But I know, so institutional progress report lists various jobs you've had for about 8 months at different times. I think it says you successfully completed the restrictive housing program, I think recently. So, there's been times where you've held a job, you completed restrictive housing, you've had no write-ups for a period of 8-9 months. You've done MRT and some programming. When things are going well for you, what's helped? So what have you been doing when things do go well?
I just try to avoid everything that's around me, try to kind of just maintain on what I'm looking forward to do. Like just stay out of trouble, just try to avoid all the bad people, just everything around,
Okay. And as I mentioned, I think when you're released, you'll serve your federal sentence and then possibly transition through a federal halfway house. Is that still the plan?
Yes.
And what are your long-term goals? So let's say you get out, you serve your federal time, you go to the federal halfway house. Where would you want to be 3 years after that? Where would your ultimate goal is? Do you have work plans or things you'd like to do? What does that look like?
Yeah, I got a job with my brother. He got like he works somewhere like mining,
Where's that? In
like
Utah?
yeah, Utah.
Okay.
And just work with him maybe, and just try to get together with my family. Try to help out my kids and just go back to school, a little bit of more college and stuff.
You want to go back to school?
Yeah, do a little bit of college.
Okay. Okay. I do note that I mentioned those pending cases. So case 241914379, I think an initial appearance in that case is set for December 12th, so next week. And then in case 241911762, looks like there's a pretrial conference set for December 30th. So
Yeah.
due to these pending cases, what will almost certainly happen is the board will likely set a paper review to track those cases. Once the cases are resolved, the board will take appropriate action. So if these cases result in Board of Pardons jurisdiction or additional prison time, you would need to have an original hearing to discuss the cases. If they are dismissed or resolved without Board of Pardons jurisdiction, at that point, the board could make a release decision, or they could potentially schedule a rehearing to discuss things. But I think what will happen is the board will set a paper review to track those cases. And then once they are resolved, I just encourage you to let us know so we can take action at that point. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any procedural updates about the cases? Obviously, we don't want to discuss what the incidents or any of that, but any procedural update about what's happening in the case?
I just got one on the one that I think I go on December 30th for
Mhm.
pre-trial.
Yeah.
I think that one might get resolved, but they're just waiting to do with this new case. They're just trying to resolve it, trying to give me to see if there's a deal so I can globalize both of those two cases together.
Okay. So you're looking to do a globalized deal,
Yeah.
possibly?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if that's happened, by the time we do the paper review, we'll notice that and then take appropriate action. But if that were to happen before the paper review, you can write us, send a kite, have family or anyone in the community call us. That will trigger us to take appropriate action. So just keep us notified of that. This time, I'll give you the final word. Any other statements or comments you'd like to make?
I was just wondering, what about my detainer from federal custody? Is there any way? Is that still in the process, or how?
So
We just gotta wait at this time?
So as of how I understand it, we still have the detainer. The federal authorities have requested that when you are released, we'll notify them and they'll come pick you up. But that will only happen once a release is granted, and then you can start serving that federal sentence. That's how I'm understanding it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to state?
No, that's it.
Okay, so the Board of Paroles did not grant or deny. They're actually just waiting to see what will happen with the cases that he now has pending while locked up in DOC for the assault charges. So we see this happen all the time in Utah, more so than any other state that we cover. Remember, we cover Iowa, Connecticut, Louisiana, Illinois, and Vermont, and we don't see anything like what we see in Utah, where folks are picking up new charges left and right. We see people go into Utah for just a couple of years and pick up 30-year sentences. It's crazy. I don't know what the answer is. Do you just have to put yourself in the hole, or is it just not getting caught up in the gang culture? I don't know. But again, keep in mind what he was in for initially was a 1-year minimum, 15-year maximum, and he was granted parole at his first parole hearing. And while just having to wait to go through the process of whatever maybe he needs to complete a program or something, he picked up all these new charges, or pending charges, I have to say. It's he has in it's if I go through his record, he's still young. He's 29 years old. It shows that his first arrest, so he has an arrest, I think he was 19 by his first arrest, and it's 7/28 2014, 2/4 2015, 9/9 2015, 7/17 2017, and then here 7/28 2018. And it's like an escalating type of a criminal record, and now he has this one: burglary of a vehicle, assault of by prison, the assault by prisoners are, you know, it's you hear about the crimes of going into the cell and the classic lock in the sock and the what, and man, it's so scary. Why? It's a, you know what was most interesting to me really about this entire parole hearing is just how it feels so weird. It feels so fake. You have on like one hand, you have the parole board interviewer who's just keeping the most perfectly straight face and asking questions like he's having a conversation with anybody, and it's like, well, what would you like to do if you were to get paroled? And you have on the other side, you have this hardened criminal. He's cuffed. His hands are cuffed. He's wearing the red, jacket. And it's like it's like this pretend delusional experience of, sure, you're going to get paroled. He's too dangerous to walk around in a prison facility with COs on his left and his right. You have to have him cuffed his hands and probably to his ankles. But let's just talk about this, maybe you'll get paroled. Yeah, you're in you're in the hole now. You're getting like 1 hour of sunshine a day, but let's just have this conversation about parole. The whole thing is nuts, but we see it day after day after day.
You and 3 co-defendants entered the cell of 2 victims and started fighting them. I believe one co-defendant used a sock with a heavy item inside. One co-defendant was holding a weapon and making stabbing motions, and the report said you appeared also to be holding a weapon and stabbing towards one of the victims. The assault continued initially until certain shows of force were made by the officers, at which point it stopped. Officers found those weapons in the toilet or in the plumbing system as well. One of the victims was transported to the hospital and had received over 20 stab wounds. Is that accurate as to what happened in the case?
Yes.
Would you like to provide any statement or comment about this case and what happened?
No.